June 20th, 1942. A black convertible idles at the main gate of Auschwitz, history's most efficient death factory and prison. The commandant's personal car is idling at the checkpoint. The wooden barrier is down. An SS guard walks toward the driver's window, his hand drifting to his pistol. Here is what he doesn't see. The officer in the passenger seat weighs 40 kilos less than a healthy man. His uniform is hanging loose over bones sharpened by 2 years of starvation. And hidden in the back seat lies a secret document so explosive it could lose Germany the war. In the next 10 seconds, that starving prisoner will do something so audacious, the guard won't just open the gate. He'll salute him. 4 men are about to drive out the front door of the deadliest place on earth, in the commandant's own car, wearing his uniform, carrying his guns. And the most insane part? It all started 19 days earlier, with 5 whispered words from a man on the death list. How did 4 prisoners fool the entire SS? And what price did Auschwitz extract for their escape? Auschwitz operates on a simple principle. No one leaves alive. The camp's perimeter bristles with electrified fences carrying 6,000 volts. Watchtowers mount MG-34 machine guns with overlapping fields of fire. Searchlights sweep the grounds throughout the night. In the camp's 18 months of operation, attempted escapes number in the dozens. Successful escapes number in the single digits. Most end in corpses dangling from the wire. If you wear the striped uniform here, you learn one rule fast. Survival means invisibility. You don't plot. You don't hope. You endure each brutal hour until you can't. On a gray morning in early June 1942, Kazimierz Piechowski, prisoner number 918, hauls concrete blocks across a workyard under the watchful eyes of armed guards. He's 22 years old, a former Polish scout arrested in 1940 for resisting Nazi occupation. 2 years inside Auschwitz have carved the flesh from his bones and burned the innocence from his eyes. He has watched friends die of typhus. He has seen men beaten to death for walking too slowly. He has learned to expect nothing from tomorrow except more suffering. A figure falls into step beside him. Eugeniusz Bandera, a Ukrainian mechanic with grease-stained hands and hollowed cheeks. Gienek, the other prisoners call him. He and Kazak became friends in Block 11, the punishment barracks where men scream through the night and emerge changed if they emerge at all. Gienek's voice drops to a frequency only Kazak can hear. His name appeared on the death list. The SS scheduled his execution within the week. Kazak's hands keep moving, hefting the concrete as if nothing happened. His face betrays nothing. Inside, adrenaline floods his veins like ice water. The death list means the SS selected Gienek for termination, often by phenol injection directly to the heart, a method that kills in seconds and requires no ammunition. No appeal exists, and no escape exists. Prisoners on that list simply vanish, their bodies added to the crematorium's endless workload. Except Gienek has something the Nazis don't know about: access to every vehicle in the motor pool. His work assignment puts him within arm's reach of staff cars, trucks, and most importantly, Commandant Rudolf Höss's prized Steyr 220 convertible, the fastest car in the entire camp. Now here's where this story diverges from every other Auschwitz escape attempt. Most prisoners who tried to flee did it the obvious way, cutting through fences under cover of darkness, bribing capos for access to work details outside the wire, or hiding in outgoing shipments of goods. The SS anticipated all of it. They'd refined their countermeasures through months of trial and bloody error. Deputy Commandant Karl Fritsch made the consequences explicit during every roll call. For every successful escapee, 10 random prisoners would be selected for execution and reprisal. The math of escape was always the math of mass murder. But Gienek's plan doesn't involve sneaking out like hunted animals. He wants to drive out the front gate, in an SS staff car and wearing SS uniforms, saluting the guards as they pass. If you're going to fool the most brutal regime in human history, you don't hide from them. You become them. Kazak has his own secret advantage. His work assignment rotates him through the camp's storage warehouse, where the SS keeps confiscated uniforms, weapons, and equipment under minimal supervision. He knows where the Lugers are stored. He knows which tunics would fit malnourished bodies. 4 uniforms, 4 pistols, and 4 men pretending to be the master race. The pieces click together with terrifying clarity. But they need 2 more conspirators willing to stake their lives on an insane gamble. Recruiting the wrong person means torture chambers and firing squads, not just for them, but for anyone the SS suspects of involvement. In Auschwitz, trust is the most dangerous currency of all. Who do you invite into a conspiracy when betrayal offers survival? And what kind of man agrees to a plan that sounds like suicide wrapped in stolen wool? The first recruit finds them before they can search. Stanisław Jaster, 19 years old, another Polish scout imprisoned for underground resistance work against the occupation. Jaster speaks fluent German, a skill he's concealed from guards for months, knowing it could mark him as useful and therefore dangerous to possess. But he carries a secret far more valuable than language. Hidden in his barracks, wrapped in oilcloth, lies a 40-page report compiled by Witold Pilecki, a resistance officer who volunteered to be captured and sent to Auschwitz specifically to document its horrors from the inside. His report contains the first comprehensive eyewitness account of the camp's systematic extermination program, the gas chambers, the crematoriums, and the medical experiments. If Jaster escapes, he can deliver Pilecki's testimony to the Polish underground in Warsaw, and from there to London. The outside world will finally learn what Auschwitz actually is. The fourth conspirator comes from an unexpected source. Józef Lempart, a Catholic priest in his 50s. Father Lempart has spent months administering last rites to dying inmates. His gentle demeanor masks a fury that prayer alone cannot contain. When Kazak outlines the plan, Lempart crosses himself once and agrees without hesitation. It's June 1942. And 4 prisoners have exactly 11 days to prepare the most audacious escape Auschwitz will ever witness. They choose June 20th, a Saturday. Camp work details end at noon on Saturdays, and the guards grow lax as prisoners shuffle back to their barracks for the abbreviated weekend. Guard rotations thin out. The motor pool sits nearly empty during the midday break while mechanics eat lunch. The warehouses stand unattended. Their window of chaos will last perhaps 15 minutes. If they're not through the final gate by 12:15 p.m., they're dead men walking. Each conspirator draws a specific assignment. Genik presses the motor pool key into a bar of soap when his supervisor turns away. That night, he files a duplicate from scrap metal, testing it twice to confirm it works. Kazak loosens the bolt on a cellar trapdoor leading into the warehouse, creating an invisible entry point. Jaster memorizes German military phrases and practices the rigid posture of an SS enlisted man. Lempart prays and keeps watch. They establish a grim pact in the darkness of a barracks one night. If capture seems certain, each man will take his own life before interrogation begins. The SS torture methods could break anyone given enough time and pain, and broken men give up names. The plan demands split-second timing across multiple locations. At 11:30 a.m., all 4 will abandon their work details at staggered intervals and converge at an unfinished barracks on the camp's eastern edge. They'll load a wooden garbage cart with kitchen waste and coal scraps, the perfect disguise for prisoners moving through restricted zones on cleanup duty. Then they'll bluff past the inner gate separating the prisoner compound from the administrative area. Once through, they'll ditch the cart, break into the warehouse through Kazak's sabotage trapdoor, transform themselves into SS personnel, steal the commandant's car from the motor pool, and drive out the main gate while guards salute them through. Each step requires either perfect deception or perfect luck. They'll need both. But here's the variable they cannot control, the gap in the plan that keeps Kazak awake at night. The main gate checkpoint operates on authorization papers. Every vehicle leaving Auschwitz requires documented permission stamped and signed by camp administration. They have no papers, no forged stamps, and no accomplices in the administrative offices. Nothing but 4 stolen uniforms and the desperate hope that arrogance travels faster than suspicion. What happens when a guard demands credentials they cannot produce? What happens when the barrier refuses to rise? And what happens when their bluff collapses and 4 prisoners stand exposed in stolen uniforms with stolen weapons? June 20th, 1942, 11:30 a.m. The sun beats down on Auschwitz with unseasonable intensity, and even the guards look wilted in their heavy uniforms. 4 prisoners slip away from work details at staggered intervals and climb into the attic of an empty barracks on the camp's edge. The building smells of sawdust and mildew. Light filters through gaps in the wooden slats. Lempart leads them in a whispered prayer, not for themselves, but for the families they may never see again, and for the souls of prisoners who died attempting what they're about to try. Each man knows the next hour determines whether he lives or dies. They've made peace with both outcomes, almost. At 11:55, they descend and roll out. The garbage cart reeks of potato peels, rotten cabbage, and coal dust. Flies swarm the heap in black clouds. Kazik and Bendera grip the front handles. Jaster and Lempart steady the sides, keeping the load from toppling. They shuffle toward the inner gate, matching the exhausted trudge of every other prisoner in Auschwitz. Shoulders hunched, eyes down, movements slow enough to avoid drawing attention but steady enough to suggest purpose. Above them, wrought iron letters spell out the camp's obscene promise. Arbeit macht frei. Work sets you free. In less than an hour, those words might actually come true. The inner gate guard shifts his weight from foot to foot, bored by another endless Saturday. He glances at 4 filthy prisoners pushing a cart of garbage toward the administrative zone. The smell hits him first, rotting food and human sweat. He wrinkles his nose in disgust. For 3 seconds that stretch into years, he considers demanding identification and checking their work assignment against the daily roster. His hand moves toward his clipboard. Then he waves them through with a bored gesture. The prisoners are already past him, already through the gate, already inside the administrative zone. Still within Auschwitz, but past the first barrier. There are no celebrations and no shared glances of relief. They keep their heads down and push the reeking cart along the gravel path. 4 anonymous prisoners on garbage detail. Guards pass without a second look. An SS officer strides by, boots clicking, and doesn't spare them even a contemptuous glance. The invisibility of the oppressed works in their favor now. They ditch the cart behind the warehouse in a shadow between buildings. Kazik leads them to the cellar trapdoor he sabotaged 11 days earlier. The bolt slides free with a soft scrape of metal. One by one, they drop into cool darkness and climb a wooden ladder to the first floor. The warehouse stands silent. SS personnel are at lunch, their voices audible in the distance but fading. Upstairs, a locked door bars access to the second-floor storeroom. Jaster throws his shoulder against it twice. The old wood cracks. A third impact splinters the frame entirely. They're in. Inside, there are rows of SS uniforms hanging on metal racks, arranged by size. Shelves stacked with Luger pistols in leather holsters, Mauser rifles standing in wooden racks, ammunition crates stamped with Wehrmacht insignia, an arsenal guarded by nothing but a door. For a moment, the 4 men stand frozen, overwhelmed by the sheer abundance of enemy equipment. Then training takes over. They strip off lice-ridden prisoner stripes and pull on the uniforms of their tormentors. The wool feels impossibly clean against their scarred skin. Kazik buckles the tunic of an Untersturmführer, second lieutenant, complete with silver collar insignia that catch the dim light. Jaster and Lempart dress as enlisted men, their caps pulled low over shaved heads. The transformation happens in under 4 minutes. 4 skeletal prisoners become 4 SS personnel, gaunt but unmistakably German military. Kazik catches his reflection in a cracked mirror propped against the wall. A Nazi officer stares back, hollow-eyed, cheekbones sharp enough to cut, but dressed in the uniform of absolute authority. The disguise doesn't just change his appearance, it changes how others will perceive him. Guards who would shoot a prisoner on sight will salute this reflection instead. The uniform is armor, psychological camouflage, a license to exist in spaces where prisoners vanish. He holsters a Luger pistol at his belt, feeling its weight settle against his hip. The weapon is loaded. He checked twice. Outside, an engine coughs to life. Gienek has reached the motor pool. Using his duplicate key, he slips into the garage undetected while mechanics eat lunch in a nearby building. The Commandant's Steyr 220 sits gleaming in the shadows, black paint polished to mirror finish, chrome trim catching stray light. He slides behind the wheel, inserts the key, and coaxes the six-cylinder engine to life. It purrs like a satisfied predator. Gienek guides the car around to the warehouse loading area, keeping his speed moderate and his posture confident. 3 SS men emerge from the warehouse and climb into the convertible. Kazakh takes the front passenger seat, the commanding officer's position. Bandera slides behind the wheel. Jaster and Lempart settle into the back, rifles across their laps. Pilecki's hidden report tucked inside Jaster's tunic against his chest. For a moment, they all pause. This is really happening. Then Bandera floors the accelerator. The Steyr surges forward with a growl of horsepower. As they follow the internal road toward the main gate, an SS private spots the commandant's car and snaps to attention. His arm shoots upward in a rigid salute, fingers trembling with eagerness. Kazakh returns a cold nod without slowing, his face arranged into the contemptuous mask he's watched officers wear for 2 years. The private never glances twice at the skeletal faces behind the windshield. He sees only the uniforms, only the car, only the authority radiating from the vehicle's polished frame. More guards salute as they pass. Each one could be the end. Each one could notice something wrong: the ill-fitting tunics, the prisoner's posture, the nervous sweat. Each one waves them forward instead. In the back seat, Lempart mouths silent prayers while his hands grip a stolen rifle. Jaster's knuckles whiten around his weapon's stock. And then, through the windshield, they see it. The main gate. The final barrier between Auschwitz and freedom. A wooden beam topped with coils of barbed wire. An SS sergeant standing guard with one hand resting on his holstered pistol. Beyond him, open road, Polish countryside and forests where 4 men might disappear forever. The barrier stays down. The sergeant stares at the approaching car with mounting suspicion. What authorization could they possibly offer? And what lie could survive scrutiny at the checkpoint every prisoner dreams of crossing? The SS sergeant at the Auschwitz main exit watches the commandant's black convertible approach. The vehicle gleams in the midday sun, its engine purring with expensive precision. But no one informed him about an officer's departure this afternoon. His duty roster shows no scheduled transits. His instincts, honed by months of catching prisoners in lies, begin to prickle. His hand drifts toward his Walther P-38. His eyes narrow as he tries to identify the occupants through the windshield's glare. Inside the Steyr, Kazakh tracks the closed barrier with mounting dread. 80 meters, and it is still down. 60 meters. His heart slams against his ribs hard enough to hurt. 30 meters. The sergeant is frowning now, one hand shading his eyes, the other hovering near his weapon. He's trying to make out faces. 20 meters. Bandera's foot eases onto the brake. The wooden beam doesn't move. The convertible stops 3 meters from the gate. Silence descends like a held breath. The engine idles. The sergeant starts toward the driver's window, his boots crunching gravel with deliberate slowness. Confusion and suspicion war across his face. Kazakh's mouth goes dry. They have no papers, no authorization stamps, and no plausible explanation for why 4 officers would leave the camp without documented permission on a Saturday afternoon. If the sergeant demands credentials, they have exactly 2 choices: open fire and try to shoot their way through, or surrender and face torture chambers before the firing squad. From the back seat, Lempert's voice comes as a bare whisper, almost lost beneath the engine's idle. "Do something now." German words explode from the passenger window like artillery fire. Kazakh hurls himself half out of the car, face twisted into a mask of manufactured fury. He jabs a stolen Luger toward the sky and screams at the sergeant with every ounce of rage he's accumulated in 2 years of degradation, starvation, and watching friends die. The German phrases pour out in the guttural bark of a man who executes subordinates for minor infractions. The sergeant stumbles backward as if physically struck. His hand leaves his holster. His posture collapses from suspicious authority into terrified submission. Instinct overcomes suspicion. No prisoner would dare speak to an SS man this way. No prisoner would know how. No prisoner would possess the accent, the vocabulary, or the sheer entitled fury of a Nazi officer whose time has been wasted by incompetent underlings. The sergeant's training takes over. When a superior officer screams, you obey. Questions come later, but survival comes now. The barrier rises. Bandera doesn't wait for it to clear the top of the car. He slams the accelerator to the floor. The Steyr rockets forward, ducking under the wooden beam with centimeters to spare. For one frozen instant, Kazakh locks eyes with the sergeant as they roar past. The man's face cycles through confusion, dawning recognition and pure horror in the span of a single heartbeat. Then the gate is behind them. The barrier is behind them. Auschwitz is behind them. They're out, outside the wire, outside the reach of electrified fences and machine gun towers and phenol injections and crematoriums. Gienek Bandera is driving the commandant's car through the commandant's gate on the exact second anniversary of his arrival at Auschwitz as a prisoner. June 20th, 1940 to June 20th, 1942. 730 days of hell ended in 15 minutes of audacity. The symmetry makes Kazakh want to laugh until tears stream down his face. Behind them, shouts erupt. Someone is screaming. An alarm bell begins clanging with frantic urgency, its sound growing fainter with each meter of distance. But the convertible is already 200 meters down the road, accelerating toward the tree line. No patrol vehicles are ready to pursue. The escape caught the camp completely off guard. The SS need precious minutes to organize a response, to scramble cars, and to set up roadblocks. By then, it will be too late. Gienek veers onto a dirt track at the first opportunity, leaving the paved road for a forest path that swallows the black car into shadows and greenery. Branches scrape the Steyr's paint. Leaves scatter beneath its tires. Within minutes, the vehicle has vanished from any vantage point, leaving nothing but settling dust and the fading echo of an engine. They drive for 2 hours through twisting back routes and logging trails, heading generally south and west, changing direction whenever they spot anything that might be a roadblock. The tension in the car finally begins to ebb as kilometers accumulate without incident. Jaster lets out a whoop of disbelieving joy, quickly muffled by his own hand. Gienek laughs, actually laughs, for the first time in months. Even Lempart allows himself a smile. Eventually, they reach the outskirts of Auschwitz, a small town some 80 kilometers from the camp. The Steyr's fuel gauge hovers near empty. Bandera pulls off the road and into a dense thicket. They spend 10 minutes wiping down every surface for fingerprints. The car will be found eventually, but it will offer no evidence. In the dappled evening light, 4 escapees set off on foot into the woods. By nightfall, they are many kilometers from both the car and the camp. Exhausted, terrified, exhilarated, they collapse among the trees. Lempart whispers that it doesn't feel real. Kazakh presses his forehead to the cool earth and weeps with relief. For the first time in 2 years, the future contains something other than death. In the days that follow, the 4 men separate to improve survival odds. Lempart, weakened by the ordeal, finds shelter with a sympathetic priest in a nearby village. Jaster heads for Warsaw, carrying Pilecki's report against his chest like a sacred relic. That document reaches the Polish underground, then London, becoming one of the first detailed accounts of Auschwitz's extermination program to land on Allied desks. Kazakh and Gienek trek east to join partisan fighters, spending the rest of the war in armed resistance. None of the 4 were ever recaptured. Back at Auschwitz, Commandant Rudolf Höss erupts in humiliated fury when subordinates explain what happened. His own car, his own uniforms, and his own weapons. 4 subhuman prisoners, the very categories Nazism marked for extermination, outmaneuvered the master race while guards saluted them through the gate. The reprisals prove savage. Jaster's parents are arrested and transported to Auschwitz, where they perish in the machinery of death their son escaped. Weeks later, Höss orders a new policy. All prisoners must be tattooed with permanent identification numbers. Never again will an escapee assume a new identity with a simple uniform change. The mark of Auschwitz will be seared into skin forever. The cruelty deepens because 4 men proved the system could be beaten. Auschwitz continued operating until Soviet liberation in January 1945. More than 1.1 million people died within its fences. The escape of June 20th, 1942 changed nothing about that arithmetic. 4 men out of 1,000,000. But it proved something the Nazis desperately wanted to suppress. Their machinery of death was not invincible. 4 starving prisoners, armed with nothing but audacity and a key filed from scrap metal, drove out the front gate of the most notorious death camp ever built. They showed that even in absolute darkness, the impossible remains possible if you're willing to become the thing that terrifies you. Kazimierz Piechowski lived until 2017, passing away at age 98 in Gdansk, Poland. He spent his final decades testifying about the escape, visiting schools, giving interviews, making sure history remembered what 4 ordinary men accomplished when surrender seemed like the only option. His story shares a strange kinship with another impossible escape, one that happened inside a maximum security prison in Japan using nothing but a soup bowl. That story waits in our video on Yoshi Shiratori.